So you've just finished publishing an episode or maybe a string of episodes, and you can't help thinking, is there a more efficient way to build my audience? Is there a more effective way to capitalize on the work that I've been putting into crafting these episodes? Am I getting all the value for my listeners that I can out of every single episode? If you're somebody like me that likes to wring efficiency out of everything that you do, then that has to be a question that you've thought of. Is there more content that I can get out of this episode? Now, as I read that last question, you might have felt a nudge of frustration come up. I know that it does for me, and it has in the past, especially when I was creating music more regularly, and I would spend all this time creating a song and spending a lot of time creating that. And then I was told the best way to promote that now, Kaleb, is to go and create more content around it. It's like, you got to be kidding me. I've spent a lot of time building this one piece of content, this one piece of art, and now I have to go and craft a bunch more content to promote it. This is insane. So if that has left you feeling frustrated, I resonate with you. Wasn't the episode good enough on its own? Why do I need to go create more content to promote that? But I want to share with you a light bulb moment that may help you with that mindset. And it's this: why am I making the content in the first place, but not giving it enough surface area to actually build trust upon? Am I giving it space to have a foundation of trust and allow the listeners and the people I want to listen to me to trust me enough to come and consume, partake, interact in this form of content? If we think about it, it is a fairly large ask for a complete stranger to ask you to listen to 30 minutes of their thoughts and to have kind of a one-sided conversation. It's two-sided in the sense that you're able to respond to me and have a conversation, but in the moment when you're listening, it's just my thoughts or the thoughts of myself and my guest, and you're getting to listen in. So it is a big ask. So today, I want to show you a simple mindset shift that can transform how you grow your audience and build your trust, starting with just one strong podcast episode at a time. If you're new here, welcome to the Podcaster's Journey. My name is Kaleb, and this is a space where I believe that telling stories and sharing our thoughts can be a powerful way to impact the world around us. But podcasting can be a really challenging field. There's not a lot of frameworks or systems to help podcasters succeed. If you've done any bit of research, you know that reaching 100 episodes is a dismal task. Only about 6% of podcasters make it there. And it's my mission to help more podcasters make it to 100 episodes. And I'm doing that by not documenting my journey and documenting where I have succeeded and where I've failed, and doing that in a way to help other podcasters along the path behind me. So if this is your first time here, I'm thankful and glad that you're here. With that out in the open and communicated, let's dive into this episode and talk about the 7-11-4 rule and why it matters to us as podcasters. So I already kind of alluded to this and talked about it a little bit in the intro, but most creators know that if you want to grow your audience, the wisdom or the advice out there on the internet is to post more content about your content to grow. And it feels like a never-ending scramble. It feels like this content treadmill that you're stuck on and that you're like, how in the world am I going to ever get anywhere? And it's creating this new stuff constantly, but never seeing real traction can be a real drain. It's for me as a runner, as a jogger, I hate running on treadmills simply for the fact that you're not going anywhere new. You're not seeing anything. You're not seeing any progress. You might see some progress on being able to run faster, but in the heat of the moment, while you're on the treadmill, you're not running through some beautiful scenery that you can enjoy, and the scenery is changing, and you're on a little mini adventure moving the needle forward. It doesn't really feel like that in the moment. So I want to help reframe the possibility for us today. Your marketing for your podcast, the promotion for your podcast doesn't have to start from scratch every week. When I'm talking about today, creating more content to promote your content, I'm not talking about starting from scratch every week. Every week we can start from the content that we've already made in the podcast and extend it outward, the content in the podcast episode, extend that content outward in a way that builds real momentum and real trust with other people. So the idea here is that one well-crafted podcast episode isn't just a piece of content. It's the core of a sustainable marketing engine for your podcast, for your business. If it's done well and you put a lot of value into the episode, there should be a lot of things there that we can repurpose and that we can repackage in a way that helps build trust and attract new people in. When you build smartly around your core content, your posts align, your voice aligns, your messaging becomes clear, people coming into your social media channels, into your podcast, it just makes sense. They're understanding the message that you're trying to share. Your audience builds trust faster and deeper. It's a win-win for everybody here. So let's talk about how this happens. This happens through a process called the 7-11-4 principle or rule. If you're not familiar with this rule, it is come out of a lot of research in marketing from Google, and it was first published, I believe, in about 2011. And they did some more follow-up research and confirmed further with their research that it still held true in 2015. So this is not a new rule by any means. It's not a new method of creating content or marketing, but it is new to me. I've only known about this for about a year or so, but it's been super impactful and it just makes a lot of sense. And I want to share it with you today. So what is the 7-11-4 rule? The 7-11-4 rule is 7 hours of content that a listener can consume. It's 11 touch points with your brand across time and space, and it's 4 different platforms or locations that they can interact with you on. So why does this matter? It matters because trust isn't built overnight, and audiences need multiple exposure over time across different spaces. So if you think about it, the 7 hours of content, we live in this Netflix era, if you will, where people love bingeable content. Think about the last time you looked up a podcast episode or you looked up something that was beneficial to you that you were trying to learn and that you were trying to achieve. Once you found a creator who had created something that was helpful for you, you likely, no doubt, went and explored a little bit more of their content, trying to find more opportunities to learn from this individual. So the first one is that we want to have at least 7 hours of content that can be consumed or binged in a way that they can take that in. This can be social media posts, podcasts, episodes, YouTube videos. This could be blogs. This could be email sequences. You get the idea. Just 7 hours of content that they can spend interacting with you, essentially. Now, they're not spending time with you physically, they're spending time with you virtually and with your thoughts. But the cool part about the study is that the human brain can't really tell the difference between spending time with someone virtually or in person. And that's great news for us as podcasters, because if we can create content that resonates with our listener and that's actually valuable and helpful for them, when they're spending time with that content, to their subconscious, to their mind, it's really no different than actually spending time with you personally. And so it builds trust to be able to have that content for them to be able to consume. Now, across 11 different touch points, let's talk about that. So that's just 11 times that they've interacted with you or your brand or your podcast. It doesn't have to be anything more than just 11 times that they've come back and listened. So that's why we want to make sure that our episode on our podcast is really good, because think about yourself and how you've treated other podcasts that you've given a shot. If it's really good, you'll listen all the way through and you might hit follow at the end. If it was mediocre and it wasn't that great, you might not even listen to the whole thing, and you're definitely not hitting follow to listen to more of these people. So the chances of this show that you've just not followed and you've not even listened to the whole episode, the chances of getting to 11 touch points with that have basically dropped to 0. So we want to make sure that our content is driving enough value for our listener that they say, I appreciate what this creator, this content creator, this podcaster has done, and I want to make sure that I'm going to see more of this. So I'm going to click follow because I want more of this in my life. And now 4 different platforms or locations. So we have in-person, obviously, would be one, but that's not really going to fit for us as podcasters. Our podcast episode, that is one platform that fits there. Email is another platform. Social media is a platform. Blogs are a platform. So there's some ideas of the different platforms that we could have. And so the idea is that I want you to think about your favorite creator or maybe a favorite podcaster that you follow. You didn't just trust them with one post. We've already kind of talked and touched on this, but it took some time for you to keep seeing them, to keep hearing them, to keep engaging with them. And you finally got to the place where you were trusting enough that you clicked follow, that you started liking their videos more, that you started liking their episodes and sharing them more, until it just felt natural and you just trusted them. And let's be real, to share their episode with other people, you had to develop a level of trust in that creator, in that podcast, before you were willing to recommend it to other friends. So you had to get a lot of value and a lot of trust from that person before you were willing to share it out. So this process of 7-11-4 just kind of expands the opportunities for someone to be able to trust you and be able to want to be a part of that journey faster. Because think about it, if they're only going to follow you on podcast, if you only followed somebody on their podcast, you're only going to interact with them in one location. Your touch points are going to be like one a week, and it's going to take a while for you to get, maybe not for them to get 7 hours of content consumed. They're going to listen to maybe, depending on the length of your episode, let's say it's 30 minutes, they're going to need to listen to 14 episodes. Maybe you don't have 14 episodes about the topic that they're looking to explore with you, or any number of other scenarios. But if you had, let's say you've got, let's say 7 episodes on the topic they want to explore, and then you've turned each of those episodes that they want to explore into an email, into a blog, into social media posts. Now you have a lot more content they could explore, even though you're saying a similar thing, but you're giving it a little different viewpoint, a little different perspective, you're packaging it a little bit different, and now they can listen to more content from you and grow more trust with you just by you not doing any extra work, but by simply extending the reach of the content you've already created. Podcasting gives depth in and of itself in an episode, but if you don't extend that depth outward, if you don't rewrap it in other packages, you leave 80% of your growth potentially unused. 80% is that's my ideology, my thought process, but the impact that I want to leave with you with this thought is that by not repurposing our content and by not taking time to think about how we can reach other people outside of our podcast episode, we're leaving a lot on the table. And we've already put a lot of work in, so why wouldn't we really make sure that we get all that we can out of the effort we put in? So let's talk about why most podcasters miss this, in my opinion. I think most podcasters are so focused on getting the episode published and getting it out there that we forget that we need to spread trust to get people in the door to listen to the episode on the backside. We forget this crucial piece of it. We believe that the one big episode that we have is going to be enough. But audience behavior shows contrary. We can look at our statistics for the episode and know that just publishing quality content on our podcast is not moving the needle the way that we want it to be moved. Sure, if you have 5 or 6 years and you're putting out really great content, maybe 2 or 3 years, you could probably get somewhere, but it's going to take longer, again, for people to build that trust with you. So why not, if we had a system, build this out so that it speeds up. It doesn't take that long to create all that trust. So let's talk about how this would apply to podcasting with the 7-11-4. I've already kind of touched on this, but we have one episode can fulfill this framework. We have our long form episode that equals our core engagement because we're looking for 7 hours piece by piece that we already talked about. So we have our long form that fits into that. We could do 3 to 5 social media posts. There's multiple touch points across social media. that we just generated, and then we could repurpose across different platforms. We have our podcasting app, YouTube, Instagram, email, blog, all these things we've already kind of touched on really quickly. But so for you, how could we do this? We could pull out 3 quotes from our next episode that we could share on LinkedIn, that we could share on Facebook, that we're just sharing the quote from the episode and then linking the episode. We could create one short video afterwards where it's a talking head and we're just talking about what we did in the episode and sharing that. We could write an email based on what we talked about and talk about how we can solve a problem for our ideal listener through that email. We can create one carousel or a quick tip post on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. And look, there, you're already building the 7-11-4 into your podcast. I want you to remember, in the big takeaway, as I got done talking about all that, as I talked about that, maybe some of your ears glossed over, your eyes glossed over, and you say, goodness, man, it's already a lot of work to get the episode published and written. Now you want me to go repurpose it and think about creating all this other stuff? Well, what I want you to take away, first and foremost, this is part 1. Part 2 next week is building a system to actually do this with our podcast. This is building an argument for why we would want to do this in the first place. So remember that momentum is greater than perfection here in this. So we just want to do what's reasonable for us and what's manageable. So if for us is posting one time a week about it outside of the episode, great. Do that for a couple weeks and build up a rhythm and a system that supports that. And in 3 or 4 weeks, maybe add a second thing. Start writing an email that goes out with it every single week to your email list. Or maybe add a second video on social media. Or start clipping your videos and just pull out sections of the actual podcast episode and share that. So success isn't built by endless new content. I want you to remember that as we're going. It's not about this just creating more content for the sake of creating more content. Success is built by creating smart, compounding touch points with our audience. This repurposing that we're talking about for the episode isn't extra work. It's compounding trust with our listeners. And it's creating bingeable experiences that they can have with our content that leads to them trusting us more, that leads to them wanting to listen to our content more. And this is how real marketing engines are built, layer by layer. Again, it's about momentum over perfection. It's not a one quick fix. This is a principle. This is a framework. This is a daily deposit, a weekly deposit that takes time to implement. It's not a quick fix or a hack. So it's not about being everywhere. It's just about being consistent in the right places time and time again, letting that trust build naturally while you stay focused on your core mission that your podcast is serving. So today, I want you to remember that your podcast isn't just an episode. It's the core of your marketing and promotion machine. If done correctly, we can take that episode and spread the word in a way that's really clear, it's really concise, and that allows for a lot of space for trust to be built with our listeners. But it only works if you give your audience enough chances, time, and platforms to trust you. So, your challenge and reflection for today is it's nothing deep or heavy. I just want you to think about in your next episode, where could this one episode show up more naturally? Would it fit in an email? Would it fit a social media video? Would it fit in a blog? What fits me and my person, who I am, the systems that I have in place? What could I easily add to continue to add value and have space for trust to grow for my listeners? And where could this content help grow more trust? That's it. Now that you know why building deeper trust matters more than just posting often, next week, like I told you, we're going to dive into how to make this more sustainable for us. Because again, I'm asking you to do more than just post your episode every week. But if done correctly, I think you can see the benefits and the arc that this starts to build for your podcast and for your story. So until next week, happy podcasting, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you a sustainable way to do this next week.